So even though Marvel has recently been making girl versions of almost all their heroes, She-Hulk has actually been around for about as long as Carol Danvers and Spider-Woman, first appearing a few decades ago at a time when the Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno and the $6 Million Man spin-off Bionic Woman were the hottest shows on television. One of the last characters ever created by Stan Lee, Jennifer Walters debuted in 1980's Savage She-Hulk #1 and has since been one of the most prominent and controversial female characters in Marvel Comics. She's the original 4th-Wall-Breaker and is usually portrayed as the tame Hulk that provides the muscle for numerous teams. And while she seems to be the happy-go-lucky Hulk, Jennifer's life has actually been filled with just about as much tragedy as her cousin Bruce Banner. As a child, she spent a lot of time with Bruce to keep him away from his abusive father. Jennifer's own father was a bitter police sheriff whose rivalry with crime boss Nicholas Trask resulted in the death of Jennifer's mother. Trask wasn't a particularly fascinating villain, but he did have a pet snake he used to kill people, and he ended up being a real asshole to She-Hulk. After graduating from Harvard and becoming a lawyer in Los Angeles, she set her eyes on incriminating Trask, who in return tried to have her assassinated. Luckily, at the time she was fatally wounded, she also happened to be with Bruce, who rushed his cousin to the nearest doctor's office and performed a blood transfusion to save her life. Of course, he passes along his Hulk powers to her as well, so when Trask's men try to kill her again at the hospital, she hulks out for the first time, throwing him across the room, chasing him out into the street, destroying their car, and getting them to confess of Trask's crimes in public. With her new abilities, Jennifer immediately gains a sense of confidence and security she didn't have before, basically thinking that she's unstoppable now that she can transform into her own bodyguard. So she gets the nerve to threaten Trask in person, and of course he tries to kill her again. He mistakes her best friend Jill for Jennifer and kills her instead, leading everyone to think the She-Hulk killed Jennifer Walters, including her father. After another failed attempt to kill her with Stark Tech, Trask goes after Jennifer and her father at the same time, so she does what anyone else would do and traps him in his own giant metal snake and sends him to the center of the earth. With Trask finally gone, Jennifer reveals she's alive and returns to being a lawyer, but struggles to lead a normal life while also being She-Hulk. She has her first and only girl-on-girl matchup in the series against Ultima, who she accidentally paralyzes by dropping a car on her. Throughout the Savage She-Hulk run, she hops back and forth between relationships, goes to court with Tony Stark, fights the Man-Thing, and then faces a whole slew of random villains with stupid names like the Man-Elephant and Earth-Lord. And when her father finally learns the truth about her She-Hulk identity, they have a heartwarming father-daughter moment after he helps her beat a mad scientist. With no alternate personality to take over when she transforms, Jennifer begins to see She-Hulk as the better version of herself, and it eventually gets to the point that people are convinced she's stuck that way when she decides to stay in her She-Hulk form indefinitely. But it doesn't stop Jennifer from embracing her preferred look and becoming something of a fashion statement in comics, if not a critique of it. She-Hulk is invited to join the Avengers by the team's own fashion queen Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, and they become best friends. During the Secret Wars event, the Wrecking Crew kills Janet, sparking a heated rivalry between She-Hulk and the supervillain team, most notably with Titania, who basically becomes her arch nemesis. After spending 2 years with the Avengers, she joins the Fantastic Four in the Thing's absence and stays with them for 3 years before becoming a full-time Avenger again. It was during her time with the Fantastic Four that she met Wyatt Wingfoot, who became her most frequent romantic interest and at one point her fiance. Jennifer actually has a good number of love interests over the years, with most of them being quick hookups, like with Star Fox, Tony Stark, Hercules, Luke Cage, and Thor, while some have been serious, like when she was briefly married to J. Jonah Jameson's son, who was also a weird space werewolf. While John Byrne wrote the Fantastic Four comic with Jennifer on the team, he also wrote a She-Hulk graphic novel in 1985 and returned in 1989 for the sensational She-Hulk series that would end up being Marvel's longest-running comic for a female hero, and is still to this day considered one of Marvel's most iconic series altogether. This is where we'd first see She-Hulk talking to the audience or breaking the fourth wall, as she would tear through pages, walk across panels, throw characters out of the comic, and even yell at the writer and artist for giving her lame villains and dressing her inappropriately. When John Byrne leaves the series after issue number 50, She-Hulk is even involved with finding a new writer within the comic. One classic comic character, Louise Mason, even gets a job at Jennifer's law firm just to exist in a comic again and stay young. She-Hulk actually switches bodies with Mason at one point, and Titania tries to take advantage of the situation to exact her revenge, but they end up switching back in time for Jennifer to give Titania another classic beatdown. We also see Jennifer transform into a more savage Hulk twice in this series after constant meddling with her gamma radiation, with the first instance being a gray Hulk, a nice callback to Bruce Banner's original Hulk colors. After losing her super strength and sort of dying in battle, she comes back to life in a second Savage form, but only after much needed reconciliation with her mother in the afterlife. After Sensational She-Hulk ended with issue number 60 in 1993, Jennifer wouldn't star in her own series again until Dan Slott's She-Hulk in 2004. It didn't mean she wasn't present in the Marvel Universe in that 10-year span though, serving on multiple teams like the Fantastic Four, Heroes for Hire, Defenders, and of course the Avengers, where she appeared as a key player in big events like Contest of Champions 1 and 2, the Infinity Gauntlet, and Infinity War. At one point, when she tries to save a town from a bioweapon, she ends up transforming into her Savage Hulk form again and destroys the town anyway. After the Hulk tries to stop her, fellow teammate Jack of Hearts, who kind of triggered the transformation in the first place, is able to use his powers to balance out Jennifer's and help her regain control. She still leaves the team after this doesn't settle well with her and decides to spend more time in her human form for a change. It's during this time that we first see her work for the Superhuman Law Division of GLK&H. When she finally becomes an Avenger again, Scarlet Witch manipulates her into nearly killing Captain America and ripping the Vision in half. We see this become a regular routine for Jennifer in the comics, where she will rejoin the Avengers for a while until she does something terrible. Then she'll leave the team and go back to being a lawyer full-time until she gets bored and joins the Avengers again, and for some reason they keep letting her back. Jennifer's ability to break the fourth wall also means that she has a level of omnipotent awareness that has seemingly made her a significant figure in the Marvel Universe. This even leads to her being asked to join the Living Tribunal's Universal Court, having to defend herself from being deleted from existence by the TVA for messing with space-time continuum, and then later having to defend the whole universe from being replaced by the Ultimate Universe. She-Hulk went on to work for S.H.I.E.L.D. during the Civil War event, up until she learned about the Illuminati sending her cousin Bruce into space. She then became a bounty hunter and teamed up with the Super Skrull's daughter Jacinda. When she was captured by the government during Secret Invasion, Jennifer put together the Lady Liberators team to rescue her friend. She also becomes friends with Lyra, a She-Hulk from a destroyed alternate universe who later gets her own all-new Savage She-Hulk comic. When Jennifer investigates the emergence of the Red Hulk, she's captured by MODOK's supervillain team that created him. Lyra comes to save her, and along with the hulked-out Betty Ross, they fight an army of Hulks and defeat MODOK. During the 2011 Fear Itself event, Jennifer teams up with Howard the Duck, Frankenstein's Monster, and Nighthawk as the Fearsome Four to fight Man-Thing. In 2012, she joins a stand-in Fantastic Four with Medusa, Ant-Man, and Miss Thing, and in 2014, she teams up with Luke Cage again in Mighty Avengers. That same year, a new She-Hulk series released that saw Jennifer opening her own law firm with her old friend Patsy Walker as her private investigator, where she faced Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, in court for the first time and won. In 2016, she formed the A-Force with Captain Marvel, Medusa, Dazzler, Nika Minoru, and an alternate reality female Thor. With this team, she led an assault against Thanos with other heroes, where she was critically injured and later died of a heart attack. When she came back to life, she found out that Hawkeye had killed Bruce Banner under the same pretenses that she attacked Thanos earlier, and for a while she was unable to control her transformations due to her emotional instability. This would lead to us seeing her in a gray She-Hulk form again in the 2016 Hulk series, and in 2018's Avengers, when she is exposed to more gamma radiation and given more power by a Celestial. She gets even bulkier and more savage for the duration of her time with the team. When she finds out that the Winter Guard, basically the Russian Avengers, are planning something against Atlantis, she allows herself to be captured to learn more, but they then expose her to even more radiation, turning her into the Winter Hulk and deploying her to Atlantis to attack Namor after assaulting the Avengers. She figures out that a bomb is also sent to destroy Atlantis, which she absorbs when it explodes, causing her to finally revert back to her normal She-Hulk form. Naturally, she quits the team after this once again and goes back to focus on her lawyer life, where she hangs out with her old Avenger teammate, Jack of Hearts. All in all, it's easy to see that She-Hulk has been more of an Avenger than her cousin Bruce, who hasn't really been with the team as much as people like to believe. The fact that She-Hulk and Jennifer are one and the same versus her essentially being two different characters really makes her more than just a female version of the Hulk and separates her from Bruce Banner as her own thing, where attorney Jennifer Walters is ultimately the only character we're following. While Hulk's comics have dealt more with the darker side of being a Hulk, She-Hulk has gone beyond embracing the brighter side of it to represent an entirely different demographic of readers. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Jennifer's origins have already been changed, and it's yet to be seen what else will be altered from the source material, but her show is already including the GLK&H law firm, her nemesis Titania, and the Wrecking Crew. And if anything, her fourth wall-breaking ability could even be explained as her possibly talking to someone other than the viewer, similar to how we saw Ultron acknowledge the Watcher in the What If show when he gained omnipotence with the Infinity Stones. This ability could have even resulted from Bruce using the Infinity Gauntlet in Endgame before she was exposed to his blood. There's no telling at the moment, but all of this could come into play in time for her to join the Avengers for Secret Wars. If you want to read some She-Hulk comics, I'd recommend starting from the beginning with Savage She-Hulk, even though the follow-up Sensational She-Hulk is, of course, her most iconic series. Dan Slott's She-Hulk run from 2004 relaunches after 12 issues, and with help from legendary Hulk writer Peter David, it lasts another 35 issues, spanning across most of the major modern events like Civil War, Secret Invasion, and World War Hulk. Her 2014 series by Charles Soule has also marked the debut of fashion revisionist Kevin Wada as a cover artist for Marvel, showcasing some of the best comic covers for She-Hulk since Sensational She-Hulk. The 2016 Hulk series is a welcome change of pace for She-Hulk, especially for those who want to see more of her in her Savage Hulk form, although the whole Savage thing is set to full blast when she joins Jason Aaron's Avengers. Now that she's back to being normal again, you can currently follow her Avengers in the She-Hulk series by acclaimed author Rainbow Rowell.